I would activate your mind to manifest anything. And I mean anything. For the moment you understand who you are and the incredible power resting silently within you, the whole game of life shifts in your favor. You have walked through life believing that circumstances, people, and conditions have dictated what you can or cannot have. And yet all along the secret was within you, waiting patiently for you to awaken to it. The truth is simple, but it is profound. What you accept and assume in the quiet of your imagination becomes the outer world you live in. If you can see it in the mind, if you can feel it as real within, if you can hold it with persistence regardless of appearances, then you will inevitably see it expressed in the world of form. This is not philosophy for the sake of thought. This is the practical art of creation, and it is your birthright. The mind is not some scattered cloud of random thoughts drifting in and out. The mind is the creative center of the universe, and when you harness it deliberately, it bends reality to fit the vision you impress upon it. Every single thing you see around you now, the chair you sit on, the device in your hand, the building you occupy, was first an invisible picture in the mind of someone who dared to assume it into being. They saw it before it was visible, and because they persisted in that vision, the invisible became visible, the intangible became tangible. This is how everything has come into existence. And this is how your life too can be shaped into anything you desire. But most of us live as though life is happening to us rather than through us. We react to the evidence of the senses. We are tossed about by appearances, and then we wonder why things never change. The reason is simple. As long as you allow the outer world to dictate your inner state, you are enslaved to it. True mastery begins when you reverse the flow, when you let your inner vision determine how you feel and what you believe, regardless of what your senses report. The senses are limited. They only reflect what has already been impressed upon the mind. They cannot show you the future you are capable of creating until you assume it first. Imagine now, just for a moment, that you could live in the certainty that what you desire is already yours. Imagine holding the feeling of the wish fulfilled so strongly that nothing could shake it. Imagine knowing that your imagination is not fantasy, but creation, and that by assuming the reality of your desire, you call it forth from the unseen into the seen. This is the key. You must live as though it were already true. You must embody the state of the person who has what they want, not the person still longing for it. For longing keeps it away, while living in the assumption of possession draws it near. When you close your eyes tonight and drift into that sacred state between waking and sleeping, you have the opportunity to plant seeds in the fertile soil of your subconscious. Whatever picture you hold in that drowsy, relaxed state, charged with feeling, will take root. Do not underestimate the simplicity of this act. A simple scene, imagined vividly and repeated with conviction, has the power to rearrange the entire course of your life. Suppose you desire wealth. See yourself receiving congratulations. Feel the joy of financial freedom. Imagine the relief of paid bills, the thrill of abundance. Suppose you desire love. Hear the voice of your partner calling your name with affection. Feel the warmth of their hand in yours. Know the security of being cherished. Suppose you desire success. See yourself being celebrated. Imagine the satisfaction of achievement. Feel the thrill of recognition. Whatever it is, the process is the same. Claim it within, and it must appear without. Now many will protest and say, "But I tried and nothing happened." To them I say, you tried with effort but without belief. You went through the motions, but you did not truly assume the end as reality. To assume is not to wish, nor to beg, nor to hope. It is to live in the certainty of the outcome as though it were already established. Do you breathe and then hope that oxygen will fill your lungs? No, you breathe because you know it is already yours. That is how you must approach your desires, with the calm conviction that they are already complete, already finished in the invisible realm. Your job is not to wonder how it will happen, or when it will happen. Your only task is to assume the end, to feel it real, and to persist until the outer world yields. The outer world always yields. It has no choice. It is but a mirror reflecting your inner state. If the reflection displeases you, do not fight the mirror. Do not wrestle with circumstances. Change yourself within. and the mirror will faithfully adjust. The mistake so many make is to waste their energy trying to rearrange the reflection instead of transforming the cause. Cause is always within, never without. You are the cause of all that you experience, and therefore you hold the key to changing anything. When you walk into a room carrying the inner conviction of wealth, people respond differently to you. Opportunities that were hidden seem to appear. When you walk in the certainty of love, doors to relationships open, hearts are drawn to you, circumstances shift to match your state. When you walk in the assurance of success, ideas flow, helpers appear, and life conspires in your favor. It is not magic in the sense of superstition. It is law, the law of assumption. You cannot escape it, for you are always assuming something about yourself, whether consciously or unconsciously. And your assumptions, not your words, not your wishes, but your deep inner assumptions, are what become reality. So the real question is, what are you assuming right now? Are you assuming lack, failure, rejection, limitation? Then that is what you must continue to see. Or are you assuming abundance, victory, love, and expansion? Then that too will be faithfully mirrored. Life does not discriminate. It gives you exactly what you assume. That is why your inner dialogue is so crucial. The conversations you carry on within yourself are creative acts. When you argue for your limitations, when you complain in your imagination, when you see yourself as a victim, those assumptions take form, just as surely as the assumptions of success. Your inner speech must be aligned with your desire, for it is the inner speech that becomes outer fact. To activate your mind to manifest anything, you must begin to discipline your imagination, not with strain, not with force, but with joyful awareness. You must catch yourself when you slip into old patterns of doubt or fear, and gently but firmly replace them with the vision of what you truly desire. Each time you do this, you are impressing the subconscious, and like clay in the hands of a potter, your world will be molded accordingly. The subconscious is not concerned with truth or falsehood, good or bad. It simply accepts what you repeatedly feel as real. So give it the seeds you wish to see grow. Plant images of abundance, love, health, freedom, and joy. Let those be the impressions you feed it day and night, until the subconscious accepts them as reality. Then watch as the outer world rearranges itself with uncanny precision to match your inner conviction. I tell you, there is nothing too great, nothing too small, nothing too impossible for this power. You can heal your body by assuming the feeling of perfect health. You can transform poverty into wealth by assuming abundance. You can turn loneliness into companionship by assuming love. The key is to persist, to remain faithful to the end you have imagined, even when the evidence of the senses screams the opposite. For the senses always lag behind the mind. The world you see today is not the product of what you are imagining now, but of what you imagined in the past. If you would change tomorrow, you must change the picture today. And do not say you are too weak, too late, or too broken. Those two are assumptions, and they will hold you captive if you persist in them. But the moment you dare to assume otherwise, the moment you dare to imagine yourself powerful, free, and whole, that moment the transformation begins. You may not see the full harvest immediately, but the seed is already planted, and if you do not uproot it with doubt, it must grow. This is inevitable. Consider the seed of a tree. Within it lies the blueprint for towering branches, leaves, and fruit. Though to the eye it looks small and insignificant. Plant it, nurture it, and in time it becomes what was always hidden within. Your assumptions are seeds, and your world is the soil. Plant wisely, water them with feeling, protect them with persistence, and you will stand amazed at the forest that grows. The universe is not withholding from you. Life is not against you. The treasure house is within you, and it is unlocked by the key of assumption. The door is always open to the one who believes, and belief is nothing more than sustained imagination filled with feeling. When you learn to live from the end, when you awaken each day and carry yourself as though your desire were already accomplished, when you speak to yourself with the language of fulfillment instead of lack, then you will discover that reality bends to your will. And what joy awaits you when you finally see it. The thrill of recognizing that you are the master of your fate, the sculptor of your destiny, the author of your story. You will never again look at life the same way. Problems will no longer intimidate you, for you will know they are but shadows of old assumptions, and you can replace them with new visions. Obstacles will no longer defeat you, for you will know that persistence in the assumption of victory dissolves all barriers. Life will become an adventure, a playground, a canvas upon which you paint with the brush of imagination. So tonight, as you prepare to sleep, close your eyes and dare to imagine the most glorious scene of fulfillment. See yourself already living your dream. Hear the voices congratulating you. Feel the satisfaction, the joy, the peace. Enter into that state, and let it saturate you until you drift into slumber. Do this faithfully, and the subconscious will accept it. And once accepted, it must express. It cannot do otherwise. Remember, it is not your effort, not your striving, not your willpower that manifests. It is your assumption. The effortless acceptance of the end as already accomplished is the secret. Rest in the feeling of it. Relax into the certainty of it. And when doubt arises, return again and again to the vision, until it becomes more real to you than the world outside. That is how you activate your mind to manifest anything. That is how you unlock the infinite riches already within you. And now, my friend, the choice is yours. You can continue to live as a victim of appearances, or you can awaken to the truth of your creative power. You can continue to beg and hope, or you can assume and claim. You can remain at the mercy of circumstances, or you can stand as their master. The power is not far away. It is not reserved for the few. It is not waiting in some distant place. It is in you now, as close as your own imagination. Use it wisely. Use it faithfully, and you will see wonders beyond your wildest dreams. This is your invitation to live deliberately, to no longer drift with the tide of random thought, but to steer the ship of your mind toward the harbor of your choosing, to no longer wait for conditions to change, but to change yourself within and watch conditions follow, to no longer identify with lack, but to clothe yourself in abundance, to no longer fear rejection, but to walk in the certainty of love, to no longer bow to limitation, but to rise in the freedom of your own assumption. You are the creator. You are the source. You are the power that shapes worlds. Accept it, embrace it, live it, and you will manifest anything. As you walk through your days with this awareness alive in you, everything begins to take on a new light. You see that the conversations you have are not idle. They are spells cast upon your own life. You see that the images you dwell upon in idle moments are not harmless fantasies, but the blueprints of your tomorrow. You see that the feelings you permit to linger in your heart are magnets pulling matching experiences into your orbit. Suddenly, the smallest choices of thought and feeling reveal their immense importance, for they are the silent architects of destiny. The mind you once allowed to wander without direction, you now guide with deliberate care, for you know its creative potency. You no longer indulge in worry, for you see that worry is faith in a negative outcome. You no longer surrender to fear, for you see that fear is simply imagination turned against itself. Instead, you choose deliberately, lifting your inner gaze toward the end you desire, painting it in vivid colors, filling it with the tones of reality, and resting in its certainty. This is not something you do once and forget. This is a way of living. Each day becomes an opportunity to assume the highest, to embody the grandest, to dwell in the richest feeling of fulfillment. And each night becomes a sacred ritual, as you allow yourself to drift into slumber, clothed in the joy of your accomplished desire. In this way, you create momentum, and momentum becomes manifestation. The more you live in this manner, the less power the outer world holds over you. Conditions may seem to contradict your inner vision at first, but you no longer panic, for you know the contradiction is temporary. You no longer ask, when will it come? For you know it is already done. You no longer plead for signs, for you recognize that the greatest sign of all is the conviction within. People may call it unrealistic, but you will smile, for you will see that what they call realistic is simply recycled evidence from old assumptions. You will see beyond it, knowing that true realism is to live from the unseen, for it is the unseen that births the seen. They may call it imagination, but you will know imagination is creation. They may call it daydreaming, but you will know it is destiny in the making. And when your desire finally bursts into view, when it takes form and you hold it in your hands, you will remember that the real work was not done in the outer world at all. The real work was done in the silence of your mind, in the privacy of your heart, in the secret chambers of imagination. That is where battles are won, fortunes are built, relationships are formed, health is restored, and lives are transformed. You will walk with quiet confidence, no longer in haste, no longer in desperation, but in calm assurance. For you will know that what you desire is not chasing you. It is already yours, awaiting your assumption. You will stop asking, how, and start declaring, it is so. You will stop waiting for life to prove itself and begin to live as the proof itself. The moment you claim it within, the moment you accept it as true in imagination, the law begins to unfold it. People, events, circumstances, all will arrange themselves with perfect precision. You need not plot the details, for the subconscious mind knows ways you do not. It connects threads unseen. It draws opportunities you could not predict. It orchestrates the dance of life so flawlessly that when you finally behold it, you will marvel at how effortlessly it all came together. And you will realize that it was never chance, never luck, never coincidence. It was the law. It was the inevitable outpicturing of your inner assumption. It was your own mind activated to manifest anything. You begin to notice how effortless it becomes when you stop struggling against appearances and instead rest in the conviction of your imagined end. Life ceases to feel like an endless climb uphill, and instead reveals itself as a flowing current that carries you toward what you have already claimed within. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer beg, you declare. You no longer wonder, you know. This is the difference between the old life and the new. The old life was bound to the evidence of the senses, but the new life is governed by the power of imagination. Even the simple tasks of your day take on a different flavor. As you walk, as you work, as you interact with others, you carry a secret inner reality more vibrant than anything around you. Others may see only the present conditions, but you walk as one who has already stepped into the future. You respond to life not as a seeker, but as a possessor. You speak with the tone of one who already knows the outcome. You radiate the calm assurance of fulfillment, and without effort, this vibration draws circumstances to confirm it. Soon you notice people treating you differently, opportunities appearing unexpectedly, events aligning in your favor. Some may call it coincidence, others may call it luck, but you will know it is the shadow of your assumption casting itself into form. And each time it happens, your faith deepens. You realize that your inner world is not a private sanctuary hidden away from reality, but the workshop in which reality itself is forged. This realization transforms how you see others as well. You stop envying or resenting, because you know they too are creating from within. You stop comparing your journey to theirs, for you understand that each person is living out the harvest of their own assumptions. You cease to judge appearances because you know appearances are temporary. Instead, you look beyond the surface and see the creative power that is in everyone. And then you begin to dream bigger. For if imagination can create the small, can it not also create the grand? If it can shift the little details of life, can it not also sculpt entire destinies? You test it, and you see that it can. The same law that manifests a single event is the law that can manifest an empire. The same assumption that brings about a simple meeting can bring about a transformation of your entire world. There is no scale to imagination. The limit is only the one you impose. So you dare to imagine boldly. You dare to step into states that once seemed beyond your reach. You dare to see yourself as more than you have ever been. And as you persist, life proves you right. What was once impossible becomes inevitable. What was once distant becomes near. What was once a dream becomes your waking reality. And all the while you marvel at how natural it feels. For when the desire is fulfilled, it no longer feels extraordinary. It feels like the most natural thing in the world. The state you once had to consciously assume becomes second nature. You slip into it easily, as though you had always lived there. And in truth, you had, for the moment you assumed it within, you already occupied it. The outer manifestation was simply the echo, the reflection, the inevitable consequence. You begin to see that there is no separation between imagination and life, between inner and outer, between cause and effect. They are one seamless whole, different only in degree of visibility. The inner is the seed, the outer is the bloom. The inner is the blueprint, the outer is the structure. The inner is the invisible, the outer is the visible. And when you understand this, you hold the key to all creation. As you keep practicing this art, The line between what is imagined and what is experienced begins to blur. You notice that the feelings you entertain within echo so strongly in your body that they already feel like lived experiences. You laugh with joy over events that have not yet unfolded, but in imagination they are as real as yesterday's memory. You feel the gratitude of money received, the warmth of love shared, the satisfaction of goals accomplished, long before they appear in the physical world. And because you feel them now, you carry yourself differently. Your posture, your tone, your presence, everything about you reflects the inner certainty of fulfillment, and the world cannot help but respond. It is as if life itself leans toward you, conspiring to fulfill what you have already fulfilled within. A chance meeting brings the right person into your path. An unexpected message delivers the opportunity you were waiting for. An idea springs to mind that leads to a breakthrough. These are not random occurrences. They are the natural outpicturing of the state you live in. What you accept in imagination must find a way to express in the world of facts. And it always does. Sometimes with such precision that you cannot help but marvel at the perfection of it. You begin to realize that your old way of living, chasing after things, striving in worry, doubting your worth, was only blindness to this truth. You did not know that everything you sought was already yours. The moment you assumed it within, you believed in struggle, and so you struggled. You believed in lack, and so you lacked. But now, awakened to this law, you see that all you ever needed was the quiet act of assuming the end, clothed with feeling, held with persistence, lived in until it hardened into fact. And with this realization comes freedom. You are no longer bound to the opinions of others, for you know they cannot shape your destiny unless you allow their words to take root in your imagination. You are no longer bound to past mistakes, for you know they were born of old assumptions that no longer define you. You are no longer bound to fear of the future, for you know you are its author, writing it now in the language of your imagination. Each morning you awaken not as a servant of chance, but as the master of creation. You carry into the day a chosen state, and the day rises to meet it. You decide who you are before the world tells you, and the world confirms your decision. You choose abundance, and abundance flows. You choose health, and health is restored. You choose love, and love surrounds you. For it is not the world that dictates your state, it is your state that dictates your world. And even when challenges arise, as they still may, you face them with a new awareness. Instead of despair, you recognize them as the shadows of old assumptions crumbling away. Instead of resistance, you return to your inner vision and hold it firm. Instead of panic, you rest in the knowledge that the end is already secured. The storm may rage, but your foundation is unmoved. For you live from the end, and the end is always peace. And so the journey becomes lighter, freer, more joyful. You no longer live as a wanderer tossed about by life. You live as a creator, deliberately shaping it. You no longer wait for blessings, you walk in them. You no longer wish, you assume. And in this shift you discover the secret that sages, poets, and mystics have whispered through the ages, that the kingdom is within, that imagination creates reality, that what you dare to assume and persist in will inevitably become your world. The more you remain faithful to this truth, the more natural it becomes. What once felt like effort becomes ease. What once felt like practice becomes instinct. At first you may have needed to remind yourself again and again, to pull your thoughts back when they wandered, to replace doubt with vision. But soon the habit of assumption takes root. Your inner conversations shift automatically toward fulfillment. Your imagination paints pictures of victory without strain. Your feelings gravitate toward joy and certainty. It is as though your whole being has been trained into a new pattern. And that pattern is abundance, love, success, and freedom. And then you notice how quickly things move. Manifestations that once took months begin to unfold in weeks. Things that once seemed distant appear overnight. You wonder how it all happens so seamlessly, and then you remember it is not your job to manage the how. Your only task is to assume and persist. The unseen intelligence within you orchestrates the rest. It aligns the pieces, arranges the timing, opens the doors. You simply rest in the end, and allow the law to do its perfect work. This rest is not laziness. It is the highest form of trust. It is the trust that knows creation is finished, that all things already exist in the unseen, that by assuming you are simply selecting the reality you desire to experience. You do not create from nothing, You choose from the infinite. You do not force events into being. You align yourself with their fulfillment. And when you align, they must come. This knowing gives you a quiet power, a calm authority that others sense even if they cannot explain it. You walk into a room and shift its atmosphere, not by effort but by presence. You carry the vibration of your assumed state, and it impresses itself upon everyone and everything around you. You become magnetic, not because you chase, but because you rest in the certainty of being. You no longer strive to be noticed or validated, for you know that the outer world is only reflecting what you already know to be true within. And you see how unnecessary fear ever was. For fear is faith misplaced, imagination turned to dark ends. Fear was never power, it was simply creative force misdirected. The moment you redirect it toward fulfillment, the same imagination that once tormented you becomes the very channel of your freedom. The nightmares dissolve into dreams of glory, and the anxiety transforms into anticipation of blessings. For what you expect, you invite. What you assume, you embody. What you embody, you manifest. This law is so exact, so faithful, that once you grasp it, you can never return to the old way of living. You cannot go back to believing in luck or chance, for you have seen too much precision. You cannot go back to blaming others or conditions, for you know the cause is always within. You cannot go back to begging life for scraps, for you know that you are the source, the wellspring, the creator. And when you live in this awareness, gratitude overflows. Gratitude not only for what has appeared, but for what is already real in imagination. Gratitude not only for the blessings you hold, but for those yet unseen that are already yours. Gratitude for the law itself, for the astonishing gift of consciousness, for the joy of knowing that nothing is withheld from the one who dares to assume. You begin to see life not as a struggle to survive, but as an endless unfolding of possibilities. You awaken each morning with wonder, asking not what will happen to me today, but what glorious reality will I allow myself to embody today. And the day responds with scenes, people, and events that match your inner choice. The world, once hostile and uncertain, now becomes your partner, faithfully reflecting your inner states. And so, step by step, you rise into a life beyond anything you once believed possible. Not because fate chose you, not because chance smiled on you, but because you chose yourself within. And the world had no choice but to agree. As you keep walking in this awareness, you begin to realize how unnecessary struggle truly is. The world has taught you to believe in effort, in strain, in sacrifice, in endless pushing against the tide. Yet here, in this quiet practice of assumption, you discover that the tide itself obeys you. You no longer push against the current, you align with it. You no longer chase the waves, you allow them to carry you where you have already determined to go within. Life becomes a partnership instead of a battlefield, a dance instead of a war. This is not to say you will never act in the world. You will, but your actions will flow from inspiration rather than desperation. When the inner state is clear, the outer actions are effortless. You will know when to move, when to speak, when to act, because it will feel natural, obvious, inevitable. No longer will you force yourself to take steps in fear or panic, for you will recognize that forced action born of doubt creates little. True action born of conviction always bears fruit. And often you will see that what once took you 10 steps can now be accomplished in one, because you act in harmony with the unseen intelligence guiding you. People will notice this about you. They may not understand it, but they will sense it. They will see doors opening for you, opportunities arriving, circumstances bending in your favor, and they will call it luck. But you will smile quietly, for you will know it is not luck, it is law. It is the law of assumption, working faithfully, silently, invisibly, yet perfectly, to bring into visibility the states you dare to occupy within. And your confidence grows, not because you believe yourself superior, but because you finally know who you are. You are not a pawn of fate. You are not at the mercy of chance. You are not a powerless being tossed by circumstance. You are the imaginal power itself, clothed in flesh, walking through this world to experience what you dare to create. You are the dreamer and the dream. You are the author and the story. You are the cause and the effect. With this knowledge, you approach life differently. When you see something you desire, you no longer say, "I wish I could have it." Instead, you assume, "It is mine." When you see a challenge, you no longer say, "This is too great for me." Instead, you assume, "I have already overcome it." When you see a lack, you no longer say, I cannot afford it. Instead, you assume, I live in abundance. Each assumption builds a new reality, and each new reality unfolds before you with precision. The days of waiting are gone. The days of hoping are gone. The days of wishing are gone. You now live in knowing. You now live in claiming. You now live in embodying. And because you live in this way, the world must obey. For the outer world cannot resist the inner command. It may delay, but it cannot deny. It may test your persistence, but it cannot ultimately refuse. What you assume and persist in must come to pass, for that is the law. And as you rest in this truth, you feel lighter, freer, stronger than ever before. No longer weighed down by the need to prove yourself. You walk in quiet assurance. No longer haunted by the mistakes of the past, you live in the freshness of the present. No longer anxious about the future, you live in the certainty of fulfillment. Your imagination has become your home, your source, your sacred ground. And from this sacred ground you create worlds. And so I tell you, the key has always been in your hands. The door has always been unlocked. The power has always been within you, waiting for you to dare, waiting for you to assume, waiting for you to live from the end. You are not small. You are not limited. You are not at the mercy of anything outside of you. You are the cause, the creator, the dreamer shaping reality by the visions you hold and the feelings you sustain. Let this truth settle deep into your being. The world is your mirror, and when you change within, it cannot help but change without. From this day forward, no longer bow to appearances, no longer plead with life, no longer shrink from your desires. Assume them, live in them, feel them real, and as surely as night follows day, they will manifest. The universe bends to the authority of your imagination. Stand tall, walk boldly, and know this: you can manifest anything, because you already are everything you seek.